Now obviously referees in the league aren't perfect, but some calls got players so heated that they actually attack them. Montrezl Harrell being an extremely physical player present day, he doesn't back down from anybody, including a referee he bodied during a game a few years back. In 2016, long before Montrezl ever emerged as a dominant big man in the league, he was playing for the Houston Rockets D-League affiliates, the Rio Grande Valley Vipers, and he slipped up one night when he got physical with the ref. During the end of a game, someone got in Harrell's face who shoved him back, which fired him up. The ref just so happened to get in between him at the wrong time, and without even looking at the ref, Harrell shoved him to the ground. The Player Association ruled it against the rules to do what he did alongside the altercation with the opposing player, and therefore, Harrell was suspended 5 games without pay, which was the last 5 games of the D-League season. We all know Harrell to be a gritty physical player, not backing down from anybody, especially now at this time playing with the Clippers, but an NBA rep spoke about his acts, and he felt they were completely uncalled for, saying, "After carefully reviewing videotape and related evidence concerning the incident, we've reached the inescapable conclusion that Harrell committed the deliberate assault and battery against referee Goldenberg. Anything less than a multiple game suspension would constitute a green light violation against officials." Now, there's no doubt that many players over the years have had beef with referees, and they proved it in games where they confronted these officials. And we'll get into some of the most ridiculous instances of this happening, but with Dennis Rodman, he took things up a notch constantly as well. With Dennis Rodman being known as one of the most physical and I don't care attitude players in history, he constantly got into it with players who didn't let him have his way, and especially with referees who tried to hold him back. In March of 1996, Rodman got ejected for an altercation with a player on the court, and as he got frustrated with the ref trying to plead his case, he headbutted him and then was tossed for a second time. Rodman didn't leave, but instead ripped off his jersey, threw it, and began flipping over chairs and causing commotion in the stadium. Rodman was suspended and fined $20,000 for his action, and the NBA said the suspension and fine reflect not only the headbutting, but the totality of his actions on the court. Physical assaults on the referees cannot and will not be tolerated under any circumstance. Michael Jordan, who was watching this whole thing unfold right in front of him, said, "A lot of what you see in Dennis is his image and persona. He's continued to feed off that, and that's very dangerous to this team's success. We're asked to absorb his whole repertoire, his skills as well as his image, and we did that. No matter how you look at it, if he wants to be a part of this team, he's gonna have to be there when we really need him. Right now, he's not there when we need him." Knicks fan Exel was known as one of those players who always sat on the edge of his seat and was often looked at as a loose cannon. In April of 1996, in a game between the Lakers and Timberwolves, Nick Van Exel was walking back to the bench, pretty heated when he heard the ref say something that triggered him. Exel then ran over to the ref and used his forearm to shove the ref onto the scores table, knocking him off his feet. And Nick was suspended for the rest of the regular season and fined a total of $187,000 for his actions against the referee, as well as missing out on $161,000 in pay for the suspension. And many people talked about the incident, including Rod Thorne, who is the former NBA director of league operations, and he said, "I think everybody understands that if this happens again, the penalty will be even more severe. It was more than Rodman did, therefore the fine was $5,000 more and 1 game more. I think we got Mr. Van Exel's attention." And Jerry West spoke about his players' actions as well, saying, "I've dedicated 35 years, my entire adult life to the game and this league, and I think it's imperative that the NBA addresses this incredible number of incidents that are undermining the professionalism of the league. Personally, I'm embarrassed, and I apologize to our fans." The ref who was shoved onto the scores table by Van Exel spoke about it, saying, "I turned away from him and he pushes me. He pushed me onto the table from what I remember, and instinctively, I started to do something that I think I quite possibly would regret. And I caught myself, and his players took him." With Kevin Porter Jr. trying to make a name for himself in the NBA, as well as trying to solidify his starting role in the Cavs, he made a mistake in his rookie season that cost him a significant piece of his paycheck. Although this wasn't the most ridiculous moment on this list, the league still felt that Kevin Porter should be punished for what he did to an in-game official. In November of 2019, Cavaliers first-round draft choice Kevin Porter Jr. made contact with the ref after being frustrated by a call that he made. At the time, the Cavs were hosting Luka Doncic and the Mavericks when Kevin Porter attempted to block Luka's three-point shot, causing Luka to miss. But after the Cavaliers got the rebound, they kicked it out to Porter Jr., who was running downhill. Porter got the ball with 2 seconds left, and he tried to get a shot up, but he missed. And he was upset, believing that he was fouled. But after not getting the call that he felt he deserved, he ran back to the bench, but not before purposely running past referee Bill Spooner and shoulder checking him. The NBA later announced that this had led to a 1-game suspension without pay for improperly making contact with a game official. As someone on Twitter scaled his rookie contract and figured out that being suspended 1 game without pay made Kevin miss out on $8,900 for that one over-the-top gesture. With Markieff Morris being one of those guys who says what he wants and does what he wants whenever he wants to, it often gets him into a bit of trouble, and that's exactly what happened against some referees during games. An incident involving Markieff Morris was during the 2018 playoffs when the Wizards and Raptors were squaring off in Game 3 of the first round. Within minutes of the game starting with the score 4-2 with the Raptors winning, Markieff Morris and OG Anunoby got into a shoving match where it got pretty physical, and when referee Kenny Maurer got in between them, this resulted in Morris throwing him out of the way to go after OG. After the Wizards' 122-103 win against the Raptors, the NBA fined Markieff $25,000 for his actions, as well as attempting to escalate an altercation and pushing a game official. After the game, Markieff spoke about the incident with Anunoby and the ref when he said, "It wasn't really a scuffle. I felt like Anunoby really went high with his elbow. That's what really got me started. We needed some physicality. I felt like when we played them in Toronto, they did everything too freely. So this is just me trying to set the tone for how we need to play the whole series, especially on Sunday." But this wasn't the end of Morris's feuds with game officials. Right before Halloween of 2019, Markieff Morris and the Pistons were facing off against the 76ers, and during the first quarter, Markieff was called for a shooting foul on Tobias Harris. At first he didn't seem triggered, and he waited for Tobias to shoot his shots, but when he was subbed out after the shot, Morris must have said something pretty bad to one of the refs, and he was given a technical. After the 117-111 loss, the NBA reviewed the incident, and they fined Markieff $35,000 for inappropriate and offensive language toward a referee. With Isaiah Thomas being known for wearing his emotion on his sleeves, his emotions got the best of him in a game between the Trailblazers where he got physical with the ref. In early January of 2020, Isaiah Thomas and the Wizards were facing off against the Trailblazers in Washington, when just before 90 seconds into the game with the score tied 4-4, Isaiah Thomas got ejected for pushing a ref who stumbled back. The ref tossed him immediately, calling it a hostile act toward an official. What happened was, when Thomas was dribbling up the sideline, he was trapped by Carmelo Anthony and Damian Lillard, with the ref standing right in front of them. And as Thomas was being pushed toward him, he reached his hand out and pushed the ref onto the two men who were sitting courtside. The ref stood up and instantly tossed Thomas, and Isaiah complained about it, which eventually got them to review the play, but even after review, they stuck with their decision to toss him. One of the other referees on the court that night said he made physical contact with the referee. It was definitely just a push during the dead ball contact with the referee. Wizards coach Scott Brooks also spoke about his point guard being tossed when he said, I mean, he had a different view of it obviously. They were in a scrum and they were fighting for the ball, a jump ball. I had a view that it looked like he lost his balance, but Goga had a better view and then he looked at it. They looked at it, so you would hope they make the right call. Isaiah Thomas eventually defended himself when he was later asked about the situation and the consequences that came because of it, and he said it was unintentional contact. Most importantly, I'd like to move on from it because I definitely didn't mean to put my hand on a ref. Anyone who knows me, I've never been in a situation where I would do that, especially 88 seconds into a game, where all I'm gonna do is play basketball. When a reporter asked Thomas if he spoke to any of the officials from the game, he said, "No, and I don't plan to speak to them. Like I said, everybody knows who I am. I'm not that type of player or that type of person. It was just an unfortunate situation where he was in the mix. Lillard had his hand on my back, which pushed me forward. He accidentally did that. My momentum was going that way with Carmelo on my left side. I couldn't really protect myself. So the only thing I can say is the extension of my arm makes it look like I pushed him, but anytime somebody falls back, your arm's gonna extend. That was obviously what happened." With Carlos Boozer making a name for himself in the NBA while he was on the Chicago Bulls, in 2013, he did something to a ref that might never be forgotten. In 2013, when Carlos and the Bulls were facing off against the Mavericks, Boozer was attacking the rim when he made a right-handed hook shot and was fouled by Dirk for the and one play, which fired Boozer up. Before turning around to look, he just swung his fist in the air as a sign of accomplishment for making the and one, but what he didn't realize is that his explosive punch landed right in Danny Crawford's private area. Instantly after the punch, Carlos's eyes lit up and he knew that he just accidentally punched the ref in a spot that no guy ever wants to be punched, but somehow, someway, Danny Crawford smiled and laughed and continued with the game as if nothing happened. Bulls coach Tom Thibodeau even said something to Danny Crawford along the lines of, "Dear God, sir, how are you still standing?" The Bulls took a tough 198 loss, but the main news came from Boozer, who said he wasn't fined or in any way penalized for his actions, but only because Danny Crawford and the rest of the people in the building could see that it was an accident. What are you doing? This video's over, dude. This video right here on the screen, it literally just started. Right now, all you gotta do is click on it. It might change your life, bro. Seriously. That's what we do here, bro. We change lives. Okay, that might not be true, but you should still click on the video because it's pretty dope. Please.